Hi guys, so the intervention program that I chose is called SIPS, which stands for Systematic Instruction in Phonological Awareness, Phonics, and Sight Words. So I chose this program because when I was shadowing a literacy specialist, she used the SIPS program, and it's the program that the school district I was in, which would be Livonia School District, uses. So what SIPS is it is an explicit intensive instruction in phonological awareness, phonics, and sight words. So it's so it's all scripted. It's very routine and it's very repetitive. So research behind this program is that our brain works through repetition and routine. It does not work through learning and following rules. So this program is said to work because what it does is every single day the lesson, it's different content, but it's the exact same structure, and it's very repetitive. So for example, for sight words, the teacher says the sight word, the student reads the sight word, spells the sight word, reads the sight word, spells the sight word, reads the sight word. And they do that for every single sight word. And that same routine is followed for the entire lesson. So to begin implementing this, the first thing you need to do is your students need to take the placement assessment. So for the purpose of this video, I chose to just focus on the K through 3 placement assessment. And so what you do is this is your evaluation sheet that you'll have in front of you. And students need to name as many of these letters as they can. And it tells you if they pass and you can continue on to the next section, and if not, then the student is not ready at all for this intervention program, and some other form of intervention will be needed. But if they do pass and you move on to section A, it tests them for phonic sounds, sight words, more phonic letter sounds, blending, again, more sight words, more letter sounds, more blending. And the entire assessment just continues as that. And then once you get to the end, it is strictly reading sight words. And it'll tell you after each section that if the student passes both portions, they can continue on. And if the student does not pass, it'll tell you based on their grade level to place them in. For this one, it says beginning level lesson 31. And if they're in second to third grade, it recommends to try placing them in the extension level review lesson 1, and see how they do with that. And then based on that is where you place them. So it literally tells you in every single one, if student passes phonics, continue into section G. If the student does not pass, then place the student in extension level lesson 1. And then this is the student copy that they will receive for looking at the letters, and you want to cut these up so that they're only looking at one thing at a time. So how it works is after they are placed in a group, there are 10 lessons. As you can see, there are 10 lessons in each section. So after the student has completed the 10 lessons, you give them what is called a mastery test to see if they have mastered the skills in that lesson set or if they need to be repeated. If they've mastered the skills in that set, then they can move on to the next section, which is the next set of 10 lessons. If not, then they are going to stay in the beginning level lessons, and they will just keep repeating the skills in that set until they have mastered them. So now I'm going to show you what a sample lesson for the beginning level, which is the assessment we just looked at, which focuses on short vowel and single syllable decoding. We're going to look at a sample lesson right from the manual that you would receive if you were a teacher. But before we start, I would like to just say that each lesson, the structure is reading a story, phonological awareness practice, phonics and decoding practice, sight word practice, reading a new story, and then guided spelling practice, and finally fluency practice. So if we go down, this is the lesson section, and this is lesson 1A. And you can see right here it tells you again the outline and what exactly will be practiced in the phonological awareness section, the phonics, and the sight words. So each section always starts with introducing the topic and then reviewing the topic, with the exception of the phonological awareness. So the first part is rereading a story, and since this is the first lesson, there's no story to reread. So then the students immediately move on to phonological awareness. And this is what I mean by it's very scripted and it's very repetitive. So this tells you exactly what you need to say to the teacher. So you is the teacher, and it has you say, I'm going to say two small words. You put them together to make a big word. When you put two words together, you blend them. So the teacher says, I'm going to say the two words, you blend them together. So you as a teacher say class, and then you say room, and you tell the student to blend, and the student should say classroom. And you're going to repeat that for the remaining words in the segment, which in this case is playground, sidewalk, hallway, and restroom. And then for the segmentation, this is taking a big word and breaking it down. So you as the teacher are going to tell the student that you're going to, you want them to tell you small words in the big word and then count the number of small words. So as the teacher, you'll say kickball, and the students will repeat kickball. And then you ask for the first small word, which the student should recognize as kick, and the second small word, which the student should recognize as ball, and then the student should be able to tell you that there are two small words. And then the cool thing is, if the student gets it wrong, it tells you how to model the correction. So you model the correct response by saying the whole word, then each small word, and then counting the number of small words as you point to each word as the visual cue. And the entire lesson follows this same instruction. So this is practicing beginning sound. So you're saying the sound, and then you want the student to say the sound. And you keep repeating that by your turn, student's turn, your turn, student's turn. And then you review it. So the final sound would be s. And they use the example of hissing like a snake. So again, for sight words, it's still the same structure. The teacher is going to say the whole sentence, introducing the sight word. So I see the pencil, and the new sight word is see. So as a teacher, you say see, and tell the student to read the word, and they'll say see. And then you tell the student to spell the word, and they should spell it S-E-E. And then you tell them to read it again, spell it again, and read it again. So that is how the reading a story goes as well. So the student reads the first word, the second word, and then the first sentence. And then they continue on for the remainder. So this sentence is I see two eyes. So the students would say I, and then I see, and then I see two, and then I see two eyes. And they're going to repeat that for the entire segment of the sentences. And so basically what that does is it's constant repetition and constant practice, and the structure never changes. So this is lesson This is lesson 1B, which is if the students overall do not do well on lesson 1A and they need to practice before moving on to lesson 2A. Lesson 1B is the exact same lesson that practices the exact same skills, it just has different words in it. So if we move past that and go to lesson 2A, you're going to see the structure is exactly the same. And in this case, there is a story to reread. So it says reread the previous day's story using the routine for reading a story. So they're going to use that exact same routine that I just demonstrated for rereading the story as if they were reading it for the first time. The point of rereading the story is so that 1, they get to practice sight words, and 2, they get to work on fluency. And then, as you can see, it moves on to our segmentation. And then it's going to move on to our phonics and decoding. So they're reviewing the S sound. And then they are going to move on to sight words. So the new sight word is the. So I see the class. And they're going to read it, spell it, read it, spell it, read it, spell it, read it. And it just continues on to that. And then again, they move on to the decoding, the dictation of beginning sounds, which it looks like they're working on S again. More sight words. And then fluency practice. So for this one, the students are saying the word, and then they are writing the word. And what that does is it helps them work on not only their decoding and their sight words, but it helps them work on their spelling and their handwriting as well, which all ties into the fluency aspect. So in my research, some strengths that I found of the program is that phonemic awareness is a huge part of the SIPS program, which teaches students to be able to sound out isolation so they can sound out and spell words independently when reading. And another pro that one of the research articles I used by Presley stated is that this is a great program for ELL students because it uses the same proven method that as teachers we use when teaching a student English. So if you've ever taught a student English, the research behind it, which Presley states, is it's very repetitive, very routine, and very explicit instruction, which is exactly what the SIPS program is. And then the other research article at UC Dawson states that SIPS is great for students with special needs, specifically students with dyslexia, because the repetitive spelling and then the multisensory writing practice engages the students, and it's so repetitive, so routine, that the goal is to eventually be able to help correct the dyslexia depending on the level. If it's severe, it might be a little harder, but at least for mild dyslexia, there's a possibility that SIPS could reverse it. And then the other strength that could also be a weakness, which I'll talk about in a second, is that it is scripted. So some teachers like scripted lessons, some don't, because it takes away teacher creativity. So that is why it could be a weakness, because teachers might feel that takes away their creative rights. But if you're using it as a Tier 3 intervention, you have creative rights for multisensory intervention, so that is a plus. And then another weakness is that it is very expensive, and Dawson found in her research that there is no difference between the effectiveness of